My teammate had just turned around when a violent explosion suddenly erupted, instantly leaving me frozen in shock. When I finally came to my senses and prepared to check on him, another tragedy struck. I froze in place, too terrified to move even slightly. That's when I realized I had stepped on a landmine too. Looking closer, I saw my teammate's legs had been completely blown off. But the worst part was that I couldn't move either. Time was running out. I forced myself to stay calm, comforting my teammate while guiding him to inject himself with painkillers. If I wanted to save his life, I had to lift my left foot, and I decided to take the gamble. But my teammate didn't want me ending up like him. He quickly pulled out his weapon and ended his own life. Watching my comrade collapse into a pool of blood, I broke down in despair, screaming at the top of my lungs. Yet my instinct to survive kept me nailed to the same spot, leaving me only able to let out helpless cries. At that moment, I knew I had to survive. I couldn't let his sacrifice be meaningless. But stranded in this desolate desert, with a deadly landmine beneath my foot, how was I supposed to stay alive? I took a deep breath, raised both arms to keep my balance, and slowly shifted my right leg backward. Then I carefully lowered my body and slid a knife into the sand from the side. The blade immediately struck solid metal. That completely destroyed my last bit of hope. I could only search for another solution. Then suddenly I noticed the radio nearby, and a bold idea instantly formed in my mind. I first untied my shoelaces and tied them together with part of my combat uniform. Still worried it wouldn't be long enough, I removed the strap from my sniper rifle as well. After connecting everything together, I cautiously stood up and tried to hook the radio toward me. But the moment I pulled, my body lost balance. Luckily, I caught myself with one hand against the ground, barely avoiding disaster. In the end, I successfully dragged the backpack over. After adjusting the radio frequency, I prepared to call headquarters for help, but the response I received plunged me into despair once again. The rescue convoy wouldn't arrive for another 17 hours. In this barren desert, not only was there no food, but enemies could appear at any moment. Desperate to survive, I quickly asked if there was any other option, but before I could finish speaking, the radio died from a drained battery. Helpless, I recorded the time and pulled out some rations to regain my strength. But when I reached for water, I realized the canteen was already empty. In this scorching desert, having no water was no different from a death sentence. Before I could even fall into despair, a sandstorm suddenly swept toward me like a tidal wave. I quickly wrapped my scarf around my mouth and nose, then put on my backpack to increase my weight. Next, I drove the barrel of my sniper rifle into the sand to use as support, then pulled out my knife and stabbed it deep into the ground for stability. After finishing everything, I closed my eyes tightly and silently waited for fate to decide my outcome.